So originally this was going to be our second story, but a couple other stories kind of took its place. But this is going to be kind of a combination thing because Democrats are still searching for their Joe Rogan host. Okay? Democrats are still looking for their Joe Rogan host. And listen, before I play anything with Joe Rogan, okay? Before I show anything about Joe Rogan or corporate media panicking, don't forget that these two geniuses right here think that they're the left's Joe Rogan. You know, maybe I'm forgetting things and maybe I'm getting senile, but last I checked, Bernie Sanders showed up on Joe Rogan's show, and Bernie got the endorsement from Joe Rogan. That seems to have triggered a lot of people looking at you, AOC. But yet these two geniuses think that they're the next Joe Rogan podcast. Okay. All right. Brace yourself. It's only 19 seconds. Hold on. There's some copyright music being played. So yeah, it's just music. Right? It's just Jank and Hassan. Those two people. Jank and Hassan. Okay? Those guys. But yeah, all corporate media can do is still talk about Joe Rogan. I mean, he's living rent-free in everybody's heads.
Imitation is the highest form of flattery, and liberals are lusting for their own version of the immensely popular Joe Rogan experience. But Rogan himself says Democrats kind of screwed up and that they didn't know what they had until it was gone.
Oh, hey. Come on, guys. I don't like mean breakups.
They're scrambling to try to create their own version of this show. Right. This is one thing that keeps coming up. Like, we need our own Joe Rogan.
Right.
But they had me.
Well, number one, they had you.
ESPN commentator and former tennis pro Patrick McEnroe joins us in our fifth seat. So, Patrick, let's start with that idea. When people, if there are such people who say that they need a liberal Joe Rogan, what do you think they actually mean when they say that?
Well, I think
it means that they're stupid and they're dumb. They're dumb. And not to mention, Kamala could have gone onto his show.
Answer is they do need a new Joe Rogan. The question is, what does that look like? And I don't know if it's you can actually create it. There apparently a lot of Republicans were creating some of these podcasters and so on. So now the mainstream media has changed quite a bit. And I don't know if it's so much about who the person is or if there is a person. It's where they're getting their message to and how they're getting it out there. Because obviously, as Joe Rogan himself said, everybody's getting their information from their phone. So where are you going to get that now? You can go on X like I do all the time, and you get it from all sides there. But I think for the Democrats, they need to find a way to get their message out to the people that they didn't get it out.
The world doesn't need another Joe Rogan, okay? Because everyone says, "Oh, we need a new leader. We need somebody who's like George Washington." Or people are saying like, "Hey, we need another Martin Luther King out there." Like, again, folks, listen, all these great historical figures, okay? Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, all these people, all right? Every single leader or major figurehead, they were the men and women of their time, okay? You don't need to make a clone copy because you know what? People can see, and people are smart, when someone's a manufactured plant, when they're made by the industry. CNN tried to make its own streaming service that went belly up in a month. These liberals really want to spend billions of dollars trying to invest a product and making a new Joe Rogan. It's not going to work. All right. Hard work and grit is what makes a podcast channel grow. I mean, that's how it's done. You have no excuse. When I wake up every morning to do this show, I have no excuse. All responsibility falls onto my shoulders, and my job is to give my thoughts and analysis and commentary on current events. And in regards to this is corporate media and liberals' vain attempt to try and create something that just won't work. You don't need another Joe Rogan. See, the thing is, liberals and Democrats, you silence and suppress people for far too long. You want to know why you don't have a Joe Rogan? You want to know why you don't have the popularity? It's because you told people to shut up. You got in bed with all these other corporate media outlets. Never forget the Twitter files, the Facebook files. I'm ever curious to see the other files on all these other social media platforms on how they silenced and suppressed us. We have been hit hard by the censorship. We have dealt with that jackboot. We have dealt with it for far too long. And you want people to sing praise for you? Well, actually, Democrats, you do have your liberal podcast. You have Pod Save America. There you go. A Snorefest. You have Sammy Boy Cedar and the Majority Report. Snorefest. You have them boys living by the river in their van, the Vanguard. There you go. All of them boring, mediocre. You have Dime Store M&M, Kyle Kalinske. And don't forget Fat Tony himself. It's not going to work because you don't have what it takes. Now, I also want to pull up something else here too, and this is something that actually really stood out to me, and this is why again I love my audience, because I think it was somebody who wrote Kit and Daniel taking over, and that's how I like it. There you go, Kit and Daniel taking over. That's right, I found it. They need Hard Lens Media, Kit and Daniel. Whoop whoop. Now the thing is, no way will I ever be friends with those jagoff Democrats, but I'll be more than happy to take over CNN and MSNBC and make it into my own thing. I'll have my own office. And you know what? Just for comparison, folks, if I ever somehow out of the blue take over those two corporate entities, it's going to be like that ending scene from The Simpsons for Schoolhouse Rock as soon as that bill got amended. Doors open, boys. Come on in. And hey, I'm inviting all of you to ransack those buildings. It's going to be great. It'll be fun. It'll be a fun bonding moment. And it'll be about family.
Ish, I see you ready to jump here.
I agree with that. I think it's more an understanding of the new ecosystem, where people are getting their media messages from. We know that a lot of it is digital. It's social media. People aren't picking up the newspaper anymore.
Did, right? They like TikTok their way through the coconut summer. And
yeah, nobody cared about the coconuts. I think that it was
Oh, but you guys were promoting it.
Misreading of the electorate, but also a misreading of where people are getting their information. But in addition to that, it is not one person. I think that, Joe Rogan has had more lives than cats when it comes to changing it up. I grew up seeing Joe Rogan, have people eat testicles of animals and crawl through the darkness when he was doing Fear Factor.
Well, Fear Factor was a TV show. That wasn't his podcast. And why'd you reference the eating of testicles and animal parts? Why are you bringing that up? Did you like that part of the show?
In MMA, and now he's doing this. The man he shapeshifts a lot. That's not necessarily what is the thing that's bringing people in. What Democrats have to do is figure out ways in which they can get to the podcast that their people are listening to. That means your younger voters, your people of color voters. They're getting a lot of information from things that are not, unfortunately, shows like ours right now, that are not shows of the competitors either. You have to find a way to break through that. And I think that for Democrats, largely, their investments have been in ad buys and campaigns that are focused on media that the young people, that diverse voter, just aren't in anymore.
I think Democrats need to find a...
Yes, Trans Gemini. She's talking about mountain oysters. If none of you know what mountain oysters are, well, just Google it, okay? And remember, I love you.
message first. What is their message to voters? That I don't understand. Do they want to be the far left? Do they want to be moderate? Do they want to be, where do they want to land? I mean, it's so inauthentic to me to hear, like, we need to find our own. How are we going to create somebody out of thin air? First, they need to find a message and figure out who they are, and then figure all that.
So it wasn't healthcare access. It wasn't housing affordability. It wasn't childcare affordability. It wasn't having, assistance in your home for the, sandwich generation. None of those things.
Look, you guys are the one arguing all the time on TV and on radio and everywhere else about what the message is. I'm just saying they need to figure out the message. And then,
to be clear, Republicans argue about their message all the time. And I think I grew up with right-wing radio and obviously Rush Limbaugh. There's always been a robust right-wing media ecosystem. And the question I have is, how much of this is actually about audience and what you will allow? Meaning, the campaign didn't let Kamala Harris sit for 3 hours. And I don't think the campaign would have put her in.
She couldn't do it. That's why. Even in front of Oprah, even on The View, Kamala Harris couldn't answer a straight question. I mean, she struggled. I mean, my goodness. You put Kamala Harris in a wet paper bag, she's going to be fighting out of that for the next few weeks. She wouldn't know what to do. She'll be screaming screaming for a glass of wine.
In front of Theo Vaughn to talk about his cocaine habit.
Look.
Like Democrats have a different sense of like what's okay to do.
That's actually precisely the point. However, Bernie Sanders had no problem going on Joe Rogan years ago when Joe Rogan endorsed him. I've been on Rogan's show 3 times. I've probably heard over 100 hours of it in the past decade. A decade ago, Joe Rogan was a Bernie Sanders supporter who would get emotional talking about how important it is to legalize marijuana, who would get emotional talking about how important it is to get Christianity out of politics, in particular on the abortion issue, who had a host of left-wing opinions, including about healthcare. And liberals drove him away by calling him a racist, unearthing jokes he made, calling him a misogynist, really with no evidence.
When you make
calling
racist
him
jokes,
a trans.
No. First of all, again, corporate media, you're the ones that pushed them out, okay? And we covered these attacks. We covered these slanders. We covered these people in the establishment media outlets going after Joe Rogan, okay? And if you treat somebody like crap, you keep spitting on them, you keep pushing them away, they're going to push right back. And no basis or facts. Again, you're trying to accuse him of what? Racism, bigotry, sexism, all that kind of stuff. Do you have proof, evidence? Because when he endorsed Bernie Sanders, that triggered everybody in corporate media to smear him. That caused AOC to get upset. Remember all that? Because, see, it's all about controlling a narrative. It's all about controlling power and influence.
about people of color.
Calling him a
People
lot of
calling you
comedians
racist is
make
likely going to
jokes all the
happen.
time. Calling him transphobic because he didn't like
He
seeing
also didn't
Fallon
love the
Fox
vaccine thing, right?
beating up,
To our point earlier.
that also used to be a left-wing opinion, to be against vaccines like 20 years ago. Again, so he actually hasn't shapeshifted very much, to your point. The Democratic Party has shapeshifted and driven him away and alienated his followers.
I think what he ended up seeing was an American political sphere that shifted, and he found ways. He's a lot smarter than people give him credit for. He found ways to walk into where those people were. Yes, he was a proud, ultra leftist, and then he became a proud person on the right, largely because he saw shifting towards the right, and that's where his money and his audience could come from. He shifted because more of his listeners shifted, and that's where he drove it to. That's nothing more than consumerism at work.
Which of his beliefs changed in the past 10 years? It's really hard to point out which of his beliefs.
But can I zoom out from him? Because
Yeah, they're talking about shapeshifting a lot. I just noticed that. TL Orca says a lot. Shapeshift mentioned twice. Nobody shapeshifts. Unless, I don't know, you're some kind of alien. But seriously, nobody shapeshifts. What is up with the shapeshifting? And yes, Earl of Laurel, CNN is torture. Don't worry. We're almost done here.
I think there is this, and I see you nodding as well, this kind of bigger question. Like, you have a Jon Stewart, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have Pod Save America. You have all kinds.
Jon Stewart, boring. Pod Save America, boring. I remember how Pod Save America was so smug. Oh yeah, Biden can easily defeat Trump. It'll all be fine. Simple as that. If you vote third party, you're supporting Trump. Those smug bastards drinking their little Frappuccino cappuccinos. Same people also, like in the establishment circle, thinking that they had it in the bag. And everybody was wrong. If Kamala was as tough and smart as people said they were, or said she was, she would have debated Jill Stein. She would have debated some of these other people. But no, she doesn't have what it takes because she's not a strong fighter. Okay? Simple. She just didn't have what it took.
Kinds of
Conan
even
O'Brien,
the late night, television brigade.
They're all left on the late night shows. I think what he said to me is what rings true about this whole concept of finding the liberal Joe Rogan is, he said, inauthentic. And when you talked about what Kamala Harris did in this campaign, knocking on doors, doing it sort of the traditional way, right? Raising tons of money. But there's something about Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, or Joe Rogan or whomever, they are authentic.
Right.
Totally.
And that comes through to people. And when you're trying to get your message out, whatever that message is, you have to be authentic.
You
And I
can
think
be
they missed
authentic,
it
though,
this year.
when you have something like 20, 30 years in the public eye, specifically the tabloids. There's no gaffe. There's no thing that you can be tripped up by. I mean, you're a politician.
Right.
You know what it's like. Very careful campaigns are.
The left needs to find a relevant voice that can live in that exact moment and be that authentic person, not just carrying the party's water.
So what about Pete Buttigieg? I see him everywhere online, and he goes on Fox constantly.
He's boring. He's boring. Goofy.
But he's not a Joe Rogan. He's not running a day-to-day.
No, I just
hourly
mean
hour.
like it's possible
Oh, yeah,
for figures to go out.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to hit all the boxes. You got to be a good.
Hey, folks, would you give Pete Buttigieg a chance if he did his own podcast like all these dumb politicians are doing, like the Clintons and Obamas and everybody else? Everyone's doing a podcast now. Would you listen to Pete Buttigieg? Type 1 for yes, kid, I would. I'd love to hear what he says. Type 2, no, man, he's a skaven in human form. Don't trust him.
Communicator, you got to be relevant, you got to be able to push back, you got to be able to invite guests on that are newsy. But I think at the end of the day, the left, Democrats need an honest umpire. One of the most damaging parts of this entire
Say
campaign.
that again, an honest umpire.
An honest
I'm
umpire
interested.
to
Go
be able
on.
to call balls and strikes. And so one of the most detrimental things that Kamala Harris, in my opinion, did during the campaign was when she answered the question, what would you do differently than Joe Biden? She said nothing. Now, I think that was born out of respect for Joe Biden, but it rang in the ears of everybody trying
Right.
to figure out who they wanted to.
Which the campaign
And I
said
think,
just
I
this
think
week.
if we want to have a relevant voice in the Democrat ecosystem, you've got to have somebody willing to try to take those steps. One of the things I heard often on the campaign trail in these swing states was you can respect an audience, but you don't have to overcompensate for an audience. And it felt like so much of the party platform of the Democrats were trying to compensate for parts of the party or parts
This
of their
gets
policy
back to the
positions.
coalition management.
And
type
somebody
argument.
needs
Then you don't have a coalition. And see, the thing is now, and I saved this one for last because I'm not going to subject you guys to more stuff from CNN. That's not fair. All right. That is violence. But as it stands, there's going to be more talk about Joe Rogan, unfortunately, because the reason why is because they can't get over the fact that a sitting president, now a former sitting president, now president-elect, gained a lot of momentum, including his VP, for being on Joe Rogan's podcast, which has led to this revelation too. Folks, over the weekend, check on your liberal friends. They're going to panic.
Are we doing Mar-a-Lago?
Podcast at Mar-a-Lago. Kamala, you missed the golden shot to sit down for 3 hours and you couldn't do it. And this is going to trigger everybody at CNN. They're going to be talking about this for quite some time. I also want to point out something else here as well. That ABC chairman, he's from the Australian Broadcast Corporation, not ABC News. Okay, has nothing to do with the mouse. Got that one wrong, buddy. Apparently, he's still labeling Rogan as repulsive because nobody likes independent media. Nobody likes the fact that the new media is taking over and that other people, traditional viewers for corporate media, are actually walking away. These next 4 years, mark my words, the decline in viewership from MSNBC and CNN to remain relevant will evaporate. As institutions, as corporations, they're trying to control the algorithm, but they're underestimating the fact of when you disrespect people, when you ignore people, when you talk down to people, people are going to look for something more engaging. So that's why I'm putting my bid in for $4 to buy MSNBC. That's how much it's going to be worth. It's going to be a penny stock. It's going to be worthless. It's going to be pointless. So buy in while you can, folks. But the triggered liberals are still going to be going after Rogan, even though the bigger fight isn't about creating a new Joe Rogan. It's about creating more citizen journalists. And that's how I want to leave this segment. You, the people, you, my audience, have to be citizen journalists in your own right, too. Because the establishment media, it's not there to inform you. It's not there to empower you. It's not there to make you aware of the corruption that's happening right in front of us. They're there to tell you the news and for you to shut up. To sit down, follow orders, and obey. It's not about a new Joe Rogan. Never has been, never will be. What has to happen now is a new wave of true independent media that stands firmly against censorship and holding power accountable.